This is where conscious awareness comes in, because awareness sets you free. You don't know what you don't know. So finding out what you don't know is actually the path to bridging that gap. The interesting path is actually to travel inwards first, because it has to be an inside-out transformation.
When you talk about being a global citizen, what does that mean to you? How would you describe that? Hi, and welcome to a new episode of Beyonder the podcast. I'm your host, V. And in Beyonder the podcast, I talk about inner and outer journeys. And we're not going just beyond country borders, but also inner limitations. And I'm very excited about today's guest. He is a dear friend of mine, but he's also an international speaker, a best-selling author, and the founder of the Travel to Transform movement. And that's also what we're going to talk about today, transformational travel, his own outer and inner journeys, and how you can really reinvent yourself through travel, and probably so much more, because every time when we start talking, we can talk for hours. So let's see where this conversation ends up today. So let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Freeman.
Thanks for having me today. Super excited.
Yeah, me too. So the first question I always ask my guests is, how do you live your life beyond the ordinary?
I think living a life that is beyond the ordinary is like you can travel whenever you want, to wherever you want, with whoever you want, in however way you want.
Yeah.
And because I do believe that's true freedom. We live in a really exciting world where now planes are all in the skies. We have AI running business for us. And there's no better time in human history to really build a life of what I call being a global citizen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you talk about being a global citizen, what does that mean to you? Like, how would you describe that?
Yeah. And there's always a question that really hits the immediate reflection, right? Because it's such a broad definition. And in my book, Travel to Transform, right? Like there's a huge redefinition I want to offer the audience for you to craft your own identity as a global citizen. Because for many, right, they may think being a nomad full-time is being a global citizen. And there are also people who think that fighting at the forefront of global justice, right, in developing countries are global citizens. And there are also people who think if I can travel long enough, far enough, then I'm a global citizen. So at the end, right, the interesting part of this particular identity actually belongs to you and only you, because everyone has their own authentic path, authentic way to craft this identity. And when I say identity, it means it consists of who you are, who you truly are. What are your deeper purpose of living in this world? How you want to serve the world differently, right? What passions and preferences you have for yourself, what you want to really experience and explore through this world, not just the countries, but experiences and friendships and communities, right? So there's a very dynamic and moving umbrella of terms that sometimes people in relation to travel. But at the same time, right, for me, it's actually about knowing who you are and how you're navigating and live an extraordinary life in this global world.
There was a point in your life, I suppose, you were not a global citizen yet, right? How did you start from that point towards living the life that you're living now, traveling so much? You have lived in different places. I feel like you're traveling all the time. So yeah, tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, and here's the funny thing, right? Because most people, when they look at my life on social media, or even looking at your life, right? You just recently moved back to Sydney, and that's why we can be in person here, even we have been cross paths in so many different countries. And we actually met on Instagram first, right? For the audience, we literally met on Instagram because we both really speak in this language we call travel to transform, which is transformational travel, which we're gonna explain more as well. You know, how we see this from the perspective and how that is actually beneficial to you on your own travel path. But we have been crossing paths in different places, and now we're in Sydney. That's such an exciting place, and again, exciting time for us to live in. But it never really started from that way. You know, like today, being able to travel and speak on different global stages and also get paid to do that, living a life, helping a lot of global citizens to craft their own life as well. It never started that way because I was just a struggling Asian kid back in Hong Kong. And to be honest, like for the first 19 years of my life, I was struggling. I was struggling because I hated the traditional path or the traditional societies that they tell you there's only one ladder to climb. to get the job, get the certificate, get the house, get a spouse, and get a better job, getting more money, and get a family, right? Like for me, don't get me wrong, like if people really love that life, go for it. But I think most people, like you and I, and for the listener, I'm pretty sure as well, if you are listening to this podcast, is there's always a deeper yearning, this deeper desire that a deeper part of you, if you may call it your soul, your spirit, a deeper layer of you that always know there's a different possibility I want to live in, right? And if you see life as a game, almost like a video game, it's like we are different characters, spawns in different countries. And you don't have to only play this game stick in only one place in one country, which is where our spawn point, right? If you may, our hometown, quote unquote hometown. So I grew up in Hong Kong for the first 19 years of my life. As a struggling kid, I was a spawning kid, never had the confidence, speak broken English, and never even have, the confidence to speak to others or Caucasian girls, like I born just living a life that what my parents and society told me to and climbing that ladder. And until when I was 19 years old, I was severely depressed because I was just running cold in my blood that I know there's no way I could spend another decade or the rest of my life just chasing the same thing and get that degree to make my parents happy. And when I look at out in the world, there's like so much more to explore, right? There's like so much more that I can't even comprehend. So when I was 19 years old, I left with two choices because I was severely depressed. And I either had to end my own life or to do something or try something radically different. And gratefully, it was the later because I went solo travel all the way to Romania in Eastern Europe. Because at that time, I was naive enough to think Europe is Europe. And I didn't know Europe is so big that you're from the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's a West Europe, East Europe, Central Europe, Northern Europe. And I thought Europe was Europe. So I went to Romania all the way, solo traveling in a volunteering project. And it turns out to be the best summer of my life. Thousands miles away from home. And I finally realized because I was in a volunteer project that I got to experience life differently with 40 other international from 16 different countries. And it really shifted me from my perspective as we go on, speaking about this internal journey as well, right? Because travel is not just about going out and seeing new things. Yes, that's part of it, but there's like an internal transformation, right? Which means you go beyond your current formation, that you get to become a different version of yourself. And that new version of me, as I call the global mind of the younger version of Freeman, was awakened at that time. And it really spawns from that place that I learned this powerful lesson that we are not here to walk the same path of anyone else. We are here to really see through what I want in this life and take in the efforts and put in the actions, right? To make that happen, to build an extraordinary life. So that really led to another decade of traveling. And again, I born from no rich family, right? I don't have hedge funds. I rebuilt it from scratch from the world is so big. And that's why I went backpacking in Europe. And I still remember I was like drinking tap water because you can do that, especially in Europe.
Yeah.
And then I was just eating free breads from hostels, right? Included in the breakfast. Start from that way as well to now people may see, oh, there's a lot like luxury travel, right? Different experience, going to exotic countries. But for you, right, for the audience, like just find what is the next step you can implement. Because we all have a different spawning point, right? In this video game, different countries, we have chosen different skin color and eye color and hair color, but it's still available no matter where you are at, what financial circumstances, what educational background, right? What kind of cultural, religious background you have, it's still available to us because it's about making intentional choice to use this globalization, right? This power of being able to move around the world as a leverage to build our life differently, step by step.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said, like how you can really be intentional about your travels and build your life around that. And that's also what you talk a lot about in your book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm super passionate about it because travel transformed my life. But it's not just traveling as an escape, not just traveling as a tourist. And that's a huge part of my teaching now as well, is to help people to realize the difference between traveling as a tourist versus traveling as a global citizen.
Yeah.
Because they may be in the same country, getting on board on the same flight, sitting next to each other, but they will come back home completely different person. A tourist come back home, just realize, oh, I just finished my escape and I'm now going back to my ordinary life, my day-to-day routine, the bubble, right? Nothing changes. But a global citizen, when they travel mindfully, when they allow the transformative power of travel to change them from the inside out, every time when they come back home or go on to the next journey, they become a new version of themselves. And that's why when I talk about travel to transform on stage, transformation is a very essential ingredient of human growth for your personal growth, or I call it also the self-mastery, because it's a path to actually master our inner game as well. It's never about just going to Japan, having the most amazing sushi, although I love that.
Yeah.
But it's also about when I am in that destination, how has I changed for the better? What are the new communities and local culture I got to experience when I'm in Japan? What are actually the new philosophy, life philosophy I've never learned before to get to be now bring back and anchoring into my life? And I can give you another stories as well. I use Japan, it pops up into my mind because I was just in Fukuoka last year as part of the Co-Live Fukuoka event, and I was one of the keynote speakers there. And I was speaking in the Shimiyoshi Shrine. It's like a 1,800 years old shrine.
Wow.
And it was such a beautiful venue. And I still remember that experience because in the same lineup, there's also 3 really beautiful, amazing grandmas at their 80 years old. And they were 3 speakers as well. And they were speaking about this concept called ikigai, which means the reason of being, right? And when I was like listening to those 3 grandmas speaking about ikigai completely different. Their ikigai is simply just living their life so present, so happily, so joyful in that moment from a place of love and service. And what they have done is they have actually made this rice bowl every single morning and give it to their neighbor for, I don't know, more than 50, 60 years as a local business. It's amazing. And I did have like, some of those rices. Wow, bring me back to Japan. But the reason I was saying is that's like an integration on this outer journey of the experience you get to have when you are in certain part of destination or country. And there's also this inner path of this depths that we can travel inwards, as I call, to the depths of our mind, body, and spirit. And when these 2 circles, they overlap, that's where travel to transform comes in. Because the sweet spot, and only you would know the sweet spot because everyone has a different travel journey. But when you find that alignment within that sweet spot and you recognize what is that transformational travel is going to offer me, you get to learn and grow and evolve into a new version of you. And for me, right, back in that example, in that story, it's like, wow, like now I get to learn this whole deeper meaning of philosophy about ikigai, about this reason of being, about my deeper purpose as well. Not that I don't know my purpose. I've been a transformational coach helping a lot of my clients, over hundreds of them and high performers, right? Getting paid to travel, like a lot of people is like, how did you do that? Well, the power is already inside you. And even I know, okay, I have the power to do that. There's always a deeper dimensions we can learn about ourselves in our work, right? Because we're always a continuous piece of art, we're working work of art, right? The growth never ends. And that's why the more you get to travel mindfully and intentionally and consciously, if you may, you get to become the better version of yourself faster. And you get to really elevate every category of your life. And when I say category of your life, it's actually the different spectrum of life areas, right? Including your health and well-being. You can travel to really find your partner like yourself and news, and it happens. Find your life partner that otherwise wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
You get to actually elevate the different community aspect and friendships, right? Like how often, if it speaks to you too, how often we have all this toxic relationship and friends groups back home that we're still going to see them just because we've been seeing them for years. But every time when you show up, they just talk about how bad their job has been, how stressful their life has been, how painful their angry boss sending them an email and they are not getting a promotion this year. And don't get me wrong, I really went through this path myself as well before I got to quit my job and create a different life. But there's a different choice you can make that everybody can make. That you can say, you know what, I'm going to try something different. And I'm going to really step outside from my comfort zone, that all this old beliefs, all these old limitations, all these old friend groups doesn't serve my life anymore because I want to elevate the different areas of my life. And if you take that step and you become intentional about, what is my intention of this trip? Instead of asking, where am I going? Instead of finding the most cheapest airline ticket or the budget hotel you can find, you ask yourself, why am I even going on this next trip? What this destination or this experience would be able to offer me? And when you make those shifts, right, you will start realize your trip is going to unfold completely differently. From you experience as a tourist, just as tourist checklist experience, going for sightseeing, to realizing I become a different person. The confidence level, the way you see the world, your worldview, right? The way you interact, the network you get to build when you're on the road that otherwise wouldn't be possible. You become a new person. And that's why I'm super passionate about this topic, as you can tell, that why this has changed my life. And it's the same formula because I might be the messenger of travel to transform. I may be behind the movement, but it's actually a mechanics that are available to any global citizens if you choose to go for it.
And sometimes we feel like we have to find those answers somewhere, but eventually you find them within yourself. And I think also for someone who's listening now and is like, oh, maybe I still feel a little bit like a tourist. I would love to be more intentional about my travels. I love what you shared as well about really thinking about, okay, why do I want to travel? What is the experience I want to have? I also resonate a lot with that. That's what I do myself as well. Like not just looking for, okay, what's a cheap destination, but actually really being intentional and thinking, okay, why do I even want to travel? What type of experience am I looking for? And what you said, it's available to all of us. It's really about shifting that mindset of, okay, I'm not using travel to just to escape from my horrible job, but I'm actually using it to, elevate myself, to feel better, to elevate my life in a way. And it can still be the same destination, right? But it's how you walk around there, like what your intention is, can totally change that whole perspective and that whole experience. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting point because we all start from being a tourist, right? That's the starting point. And even for me, right, over a decade ago, before I traveled to over 35 countries for 13 years now, right, being able to move around, live in different countries, just got my citizenship in Australia here as well, right?
Yeah.
Before all that happened, I also start out as a tourist, and that's why I'm so passionate to really offer those listeners, right, that if you want to elevate your life differently, now there are tools, there are steps, there are mastery that you can choose. And when we say becoming intentional, right, you can think about it this way. Like there's like a conscious awareness behind of everything we do, right? Even not just travel, even if you just go for cooking, even just brushing your teeth, even the day-to-day mundane experience that you can keep repeating doing it as an autopilot, right? Going to work, driving with the same route or taking the same public transport, talking to the same people. Or you can actually start having a conscious awareness to break those cycles because essentially it's the same ability to really evolve from tourist to become a global citizen. And actually, let me offer you the full map as well, as I also teach this extensively on my keynotes and also in my travel mastery blueprint course as well in my community. Because imagine from point A to point B, if you are climbing a mountain, if you don't have a map, right? Of course, you're gonna get lost. And one of the analogy I really love using is like, imagine you're just in France, in Paris, right? Imagine the Eiffel Tower, the beautiful Eiffel Tower structure is just right in front of you. Beautiful blue sky. You hear French accents or maybe a bit of tourists talking as well. Imagine that. Now, let's say if you want to go to the Louvre Museum next, will you pull out a map of Japan, Tokyo? Just because the Tokyo Tower has certain physical semblance to the Eiffel Tower. No, right? Like it sounds so silly. Like it almost sounds ridiculous. Like why would anyone do that? But here's the truth. Most people are navigating life exactly doing that because they are pulling out a map from someone handing down to them. They are pulling out a map given by their parents, by societies, by the education system, by the news or whatnot, or whoever tell them how you live your life, right? So that's why when we were handing down on how to travel, and I know because I also spent 8 years of professional experience in my career as a marketing manager in the tourism industry, right? And I was actually one of those people unconsciously behind being so good at travel advertising and telling people the narrative, this is what you need. This is the holiday escape that's gonna fix your life, right? This is the perfect luxury escape that you can look the most amazing in front of your friends and family on social media,
Yeah.
right? And I was behind that, when I was unconscious on this path when I first started my journey working in the corporate. And it's interesting because the more I become consciously aware about that, there are so many more layers that we can actually build our own map. And when you start building your own map, now you get to find your own path to get to the point, what I call, again, being a global citizen, to live your global oriented life, right? May that be an expat, may that be a nomad, may that be you're just traveling couple of times per year, because this level, the level of being a travelers, right? I call it the 4 stages of travelers. And it's not the 4 stages of traveling, right? It's 4 stages of traveler, because it's about your identity. It's about your own conscious relationship with traveling itself.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with the frequency of travel or how many countries you already take off, right? It's about your own awareness about your relationship with travel. Now, with that in mind, you can imagine a map in front of you, and there's like 4 stages to get to where you want, right? To live an extraordinary life where you can feel free, feeling fulfilled, feeling purposeful every single day, waking up having the most amazing energy, being at the perfect destination that you have consciously choose, right? With the beautiful partners or friends that you have, again, consciously choose, with a vibrant body and energy to enjoy that, right? Like, doesn't that sound amazing, right? And imagine that life in between where we are of being a tourist, right? To really just go out and take the short-term vacation, take off the tourist checklist, right? From that place to there, there's 2 more steps. So if you think about it, what I call tourists, if you look at the characteristic in terms of, let's say, both personal growth and their travel lifestyle, is that they are traveling to escape. From a personal growth perspective, they are being reactive, right? And I'm sure you met a lot of this, like, screw the government, why they cancel my visa? Screw the airline, why they delay again? These are people always a victim, they are reactive. Now, if you want to really evolve to the next stage, right? And many of you, if you're listening to the podcast, I'm sure you already have experienced it, because after being a tourist, you become an explorer, right? An explorer is the identity where you start exploring both the world and yourself, right? You start asking the question, why? You start learning about different worldviews, different religion, right? Different destination actually offer you a different cultural lessons, right? So you become an explorer, you start really learning, right? Now, after that, the next step on this adventure is actually to become an adventurer, right? Because you start creating your own unique experience, your own unique adventure according to your own inner alignment, right? Your own personality, your own preferences, your own things that really enjoy your passions, your ikigai. Because everyone is different. And only until you have really went through this explorer phase, right, to learn about the world and yourself, then you get to come back and say, you know what? I have enough chasing waterfalls, I have enough chasing sunsets. And now I just want to build something different that is meaningful and purposeful, right? Because being an adventurer means now I'm navigating the world, building my own path, at the same time making a positive impact to the world as well, to the people around you, to the local communities. And that's why now you start to play a different games that most people will see, yeah, this guy is still, traveling. He or she is still in many different places. But the way he's building his business or career, his personal brand, right? May that be a content creator or maybe a remote worker, right? The way that they get to just open their laptop and work, with location dependence, they look different because they have reached this identity of being an adventurer, right? The thing is, life is not just about working hard, because we both possibly have that state as well in our conversation before, that we just work ourselves so hard to build this life. We also get to experience burnout.
Yeah, it happens, yeah.
It happens, right? Like, we also burn out because we just work ourselves so hard that, this is something I want, and we forgot about the fundamental, that life is not about working hard, it's about working smart as well. And we can also go into a place where we feel so much more creative and also intuitively guided because not everything I have to control to have the full plan on my adventure. We can also leave room for it as well. We can also just surrender to the bigger opportunity that God or the universe or your higher self or whatever belief system you allow that give you this different experience when you're on your trip. And that's where you really get to elevate and become what I call a global citizen. Because in this last stage, right, navigating and traveling as a global minded individual, that you get to travel with total freedom. Now you are living travel as a lifestyle, right? A lifestyle rather than an escape. Because both the outer and inner journey has been integrally integrated together. There's no more separation about my old life or my home life that, oh, I have an endpoint of my trip versus I'm just living my life. And sometimes I may be on the road, sometimes I may be back in my home base, sometimes I may be somewhere else. But we get to craft this life, an extraordinary life that is so different from, as you call it, the ordinary life, where people may choose differently to be what I call in the matrix. And again, if it's happy for them, if that's what they truly want, amazing. But the thing is, I think we have just seen the world enough that this is what most people don't want. And we suppress it. No matter it's like politics and economic system, when there's something wrong, we try to complain about it instead of doing something about it.
Yeah, I feel like people listening to this also have this spark or nudge already inside of themselves. Probably already are an explorer or perhaps already an adventurer, right?
Yeah.
And looking for this next step. So I think this framework, how you explain it, is really helpful for people to understand, like, oh, okay, maybe I'm in this stage right now, and this is how I can actually use travel to change my life. And yeah, if I look at my own travel experiences as well, especially the first time when I went on a solo trip, it was also this realization of like, okay, people are living their life in a different way in this country, and the way that I thought was the way to live your life is actually not the only way. And I think sometimes to have those type of experiences to realize, oh yeah, the more you travel, the more you realize like everyone is living their life in a different way. There's not just one system, as you said before, like, oh, I just have this map, but it actually doesn't match with where I'm going in my journey. I think that makes such a big difference. And it's probably that starting point as well, right? To evolve and take steps from there. If you look back on your own journey, did it take you maybe a couple of years, or was it quite fast, for example, when you had this realization of, oh, I want more out of my life? You just hopped sort of quite quickly to this stage of global citizen. Also for the listeners to understand, like, okay, how do I go actually from this phase of being an explorer towards having this life of freedom, or from creating my own version of freedom, or like a lifestyle that really lights you up? And I know it's hard to put a time frame on that in general, because of course everyone's journey is different. But in your situation, how did you go through that whole evolution, I would say?
Yeah, such a great question. And this is why I love this framework so much, because for me, I actually was stuck in a tourist and explorer for over a decade. For almost a decade. Like before I moved to Australia in December 2019, with my internal transfer when I was working for a corporate job, I thought I had a jackpot because I was in a multinational company, get paid to travel and relocate. And I was a management trainee. And don't get me wrong, I really love my job. And I got to move around country, work with teams from all different backgrounds and cultures. It really helped me grow so much. But the funny thing is, it's not really measured again by external metrics about how fast you can go from tourist to global citizen, but it's actually measured by the level of your awareness, right? And by level of awareness, you can imagine. I love using this analogy. It's like the glass elevator. I use it a lot with my clients as well when they feel stuck in their life, because they ask essentially the same question. It's like, Freeman, I have put in all this effort. I have built this. It was an amazing trip, but like, how can I have more? Right? If you ask the same question, it's like, once you taste that freedom, once you have that travel experience, and you want to have more of it, but you feel like my finance is not there, right? My energy is not there. There's like so much personal responsibility still, right? It almost like this reality of my old life and my new life is conflicting, right? And I love what you said. I think you recently have a post about becoming, right? The transit, and that's why I love your work as well. The way that we help people to transit, to fully integrate, if you may, to become one, right? To become unison, so that both life is not separate anymore. Again, this is where conscious awareness comes in, because awareness set you free. You don't know what you don't know. So finding out what you don't know is actually the path to bridging that gap. That's the first step, right? So when my clients also ask me the same, how can I become this global citizen level, right? Living a thriving life. The interesting path is actually to travel inwards first, right? Because it has to be an inside-out transformation. It's never outside in. You know, one of our mutual favorite teachers as well, right? Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he says most people, they actually reverse the order of building a life. They think when I have something, when I have that house, when I have the money, then I will be happy. Right? But the real order is actually when I'm happy, when I'm feeling fulfilled, I'm going to have that dream life I have. Being, doing, having is actually the right sequence when we want to go from tourist to global citizen, or simply put, to go from ordinary to extraordinary. Because when you understand your own beingness, which is the internal path of understanding our own state and our own self-mastery, understanding who we are, being able to answer all those existential questions of why even I'm here and why I'm here to travel, right? Now you get to go to take aligned action, which is the doing part. And when you take aligned action, no matter whether something is making money or not, but you still follow your passion, no matter something is gonna look, it works for me or not, but you know this is the path and you follow through, that doing is gonna lead you to having that dream life you want. But a lot of people, they just reverse the other way around, right? Having something, then I will feel safe. And then I'm going to try this thing to do something. And finally, I will be happy. And that's why that reverse order sounds so simple. But if you really put it into practical integration in your life, that's how you can actually fast track, right? To go from point A to point B. Because again, for me, I was stuck for over a decade and trying to chase and thinking if I get a promotion, if I can move and relocate to the next country, finally I will have it. And I didn't. And I was saying earlier, December 2019 was the first time I moved to Sydney, Australia with my transfer. I had a promotion and I was like, I got paid to move from Singapore. I was having my other placement in Singapore at that time. And then moved to Australia. Wow. Getting sponsored by my visa. I was like, so filled with pride, and I'm going to live in this beautiful country, see the kangaroos and the Great Barrier Reef. And guess what? The first time I moved, it was Australian bushfire first. And then March 2020, COVID lockdown. And I was living in a tiny studio, actually smaller than the studio we are in right now, with a pull-down bed next to my kitchen. And I still remember every single day, mental health wasn't even a vocabulary back then, right? Before COVID time, no one talked about how you feel. It's talk about how hard you should work. And in that space, finally, I had to pause. Because physically, I was breaking down as well. I was identified with CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, which means I'm so tired the whole day at my 20s. And I was having severe insomnia, no sleep doctor could help me. And I was having bad nightmares. And if that's not enough, in the same year, I lost most of my saving from the stock market around August time. Emotionally, I was still attaching to a British lady I was dating back in Hong Kong. But we are done. And I was hitting my rock bottom. In that COVID space, no more places for me to travel, no more places I can escape. Because that was the final time where I don't even know whether I have my job, whether I can still live in Australia, whether I can stay. And because there's no more place to go, finally I got to travel inwards. And I finally get to sit with all the uncomfortness that has been always inside me. I got to sit with all those emotional layers. I was using Facebook to reaffirm my own comparison and enviness, right? To prove something using social media. And when I sit with myself and shine light on all those deeper layers, we call it travel inwards, to really go into the dimensions and the uncomfortableness you have. And you decided to really work through it, heal it, right? To become a different version of you, to say, you know what, all this layer doesn't serve me anymore because it doesn't make me happy, it doesn't make me fulfilled. It's not going to help me to become having more freedom in my life. And if you allow to let those things go, right, you get to become, again, the global citizen identity, because a global-minded individual, a global citizen, means we are healed. We are conscious beings. We are conscious humans walking in the world. We are conscious humans that who wants to do a better good for the world, for humanity. Because when you understand there's no argument about good or bad or right or wrong in this world, it's just different, like you said. It's just different perspective, different worldviews. If we can be open-minded and respect each other, more people to understand this, then we are making the world a better place. Then we are born to spawn into this video game. And that's it.
Yeah, I resonate with that story. I've been in corporate, as you know, also for a decade, and often thinking about, okay, using travel to escape or just feeling at a certain point burned out and stuck. And yeah, sometimes we need that moment, like that rock bottom moment, to realize, okay, this is not how I want to live my life. And I don't think that everyone needs that rock bottom, like don't wait for it.
Exactly.
Don't wait for your life to be like, oh my God, I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like if you have that awareness, if something inside of you starts to create that spark of like, oh, I feel like there's more out there for me, to just follow that. But yeah, often it does happen that we need a bit of a reality shock
Yeah.
to realize, okay, no, I need to do things differently.
Yeah, and I appreciate you said that as well, because that's why our journey has really led to where we are today.
Yeah.
But at the same time, right, we are offering the people that we help and the listeners that you don't have to wait for that wake up call, right? Because you don't have to wait. Don't wait. This is a thing we call the, in our coaching, right? We use this analogy: the feather, the brake, and the bus, right? The feather, the brake, and the bus. So imagine, right? When you know you are walking on the right path and then you deviate a bit, you start making decisions because to please your partner, your friends, your parents, or society, right? Normally, you will feel a nudge from, again, the God or universe, your higher self or karma, whatever belief system you allow. That's like a feather, it's like lightly touching you. Hey, wake up, maybe that shouldn't be that, don't take that degree, don't take that job, there's something there.
Yeah.
But most of the time when the feather came, it's like, yeah, it's itchy, but I don't listen. I already make my, everyone says that, so they go for it. Now, if you stay on that that path long enough, that doesn't feel aligned truly, doesn't make you feel alive for you, then here comes a brick. There would be a brick flying in and hit your head, and you would just be bleeding. So, ouch! It is painful. It's so painful. Why did this happen? Now, most people, when they have a break comes in, when they have this breakup, when they lose their job, when they have this awakening per se during COVID, they would feel the bleed and the pain, and then they would start re-evaluating their path. Maybe that's not really meant for me, no matter how many years of effort I told myself I need to put in, and I can choose something different, right? Now, the last wake-up call, because for me at that time, even so many bricks were like hitting my head, and I was like bleeding all along. Maybe same for you as well, V. But then I was like, I'm gonna stick with it because everyone say this is true to me, even though deep apart, I know that's not true. And finally the bus. The bus came and hit you, fly you over, and I was in hospital. Right? I was like lying down in my studio. It's like, oh, I don't know whether I still have my job. My body is breakdown. No doctor could help me anymore. I'm single and this and that. The bus came. So don't wait for that bus. Don't wait for that wake up call.
Yeah.
I know that the questions that the listener may have is like, how? But how? Okay, that sounds good, Freeman. I'm sold. Like, I don't want the bus. I don't want to wait for that bus to hit me. But how? So here's how. There's two paths, right? There's two paths to growth. You actually possibly heard of this as well. We're in the Mind Valley event in Amsterdam last year. Many of my favorite teachers there, have this teaching about Kensho and Satori, right? Those are two Japanese words, from the Zen philosophy. And our path, our soul, our human experience can grow through two paths. The Kensho path, which means to learn through pain, right? Or the Satori, to learn through insight, enlightenment, right? Now, the choice is actually ours. Again, in traditional societies and people who are living in an ordinary life, we are very conditioned, including my own self, that we have to learn through pain. We have to go through trial and error. And that's always part of the human experience, because if we don't know what we don't like, how do we know what we like? Right? There's always a polarity there. However, if you were to choose to transcend that polarity, to transcend the yin and yang, to transcend the one and zero, if you may, if you choose to go beyond that, Now, you are playing a different game of going into the realm of grow through Satori, which means to grow through insights.
Mm-hmm.
And when we call insights, right, the beautiful word insights, as a certified hypnotherapist as well, I really love, English language, even though Cantonese is like my mother tongue. But when I have like this hybrid system, I feel like, sometimes you learn about English word differently. So the word insights, right, means the sights from within, the sights from within. And once you see it, you can't unseen it. And that's why insight is a really beautiful thing, because when you see a new path, that a new possibilities can come true to me, that I can build and live a different life like you share, right? That maybe I can make a different choice to move to different countries. Or maybe I can just try this trip first and see what that leads to, as long as I know my why. Now, you can grow through insight much more easy, because now you have all this aha moment, right? Aha, and I'm sure you have all this moment experience in your life, right? Like, because the most brilliant idea never really happens in a boardroom meeting when you're feeling stressed with your boss. It comes from when you're having a shower.
Mm.
It comes from when you're in the elevator or just having a dinner with your friends. Like, I never thought about that before. Aha. And if you allow yourself to actually shift from learning growing through pain only to learning through insights, through more enlightenment, that's true freedom. That's true freedom, because now we can expand, we can evolve into that new version of ourselves, which much more ease, grace, and flow. We can accelerate our journey to use travel as a catalyst to help us build that amazing dream life in a shorter amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's totally possible. And in fact, right, this is something I really love doing in my coaching with my clients, is to do less to achieve more. Do less to create more. Do less to impact more. There's this amazing book called 10x is Easier Than 2x by Dan Sullivan. And it's an amazing concept that most people that are stuck in life is because they are trying to 2x their life, right? They want to double what they already have created successfully. And here's the problem. Most people, no matter it's like applying this to your business, to your relationship, or to your health and fitness, how many times you go to the gym, the muscle you want to build, you can apply to anything. People want to double their results, right? If I have this, and if I have double of it, it would be great. And this is why people feel stuck, because most of the time that wouldn't work, because this is called the paradox of success. Everything that created success, that lead you to this point, is exactly what holding you back from achieving the next level of greatness, the next level of success waiting for you. So in order to break this, right, you actually have to apply this 10x rule to first believe in yourself that if you want to play a 10x game, then what you need to do is actually do less. Because the whole point, the whole trick is to let go of those 80% of things that lead you to this point of success, letting go of that and focusing on that 20% that deliver the 80% of the result. And that's how you 10x. So there's, both the philosophical part, which, we can talk about a lot of conscious awareness and freedom, the theoretical side of it. But there's also a deep part of practical side, which I go much deeper in my community, right? In my signature blueprint course, to really take those actions and implementation, because there are a lot of tools we can use to catalyze that, right? To go through this path of Satori, to really create 10x in your life rather than just stuck in the 2x.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's such an important distinction. While you were sharing that, I also realized, I feel like in the past I also have been, especially when that bus hit me, have been focusing a lot on doing things or learning through pain and almost this belief that you feel like I have to put a lot of effort into something, otherwise it's not worth it, or otherwise it's not going to work. That it almost has to be difficult. Otherwise, it's not going to happen, because what you said, it's also how society is often shaped, or what we learn in school, right? Like you have to always work hard and hustle, otherwise you won't get the results. And I love that you shared this distinction of, okay, you can also learn and grow through insight and actually listen to that inner voice who is always there and perhaps only shows up when you're taking a shower or go on a walk, and it's like, hey, I'm still here, and to listen to that, because if you do that, the path becomes so much smoother, and it's like, oh, actually I can also create the life that I want in a more like effortless way in that sense. And it doesn't mean that you never have to work, but as you said, to be smarter about how you work, and doing less can actually create more results. I think sometimes that's such a big shift we can make internally from what we have learned in the past, and it can completely change your whole lifestyle, I would say.
Yeah, beautifully said. It's interesting because our old belief system, right, our limitation, our inner limitation, as you call, is exactly what has been holding us back most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, they blame the external, right? However, the mental story of how we narrate that and how we can choose differently, that's the real power, right?
Mm.
That's self-mastery. Because yes, the external flavor, the markets go down, the economy is this, and inflation and this and that. Yes, while that's true, it doesn't mean I can't make a different choice to elevate my life differently.
Mhm.
And this is the huge distinction, because if you can have this gap in between that limiting belief versus installing a new belief, that's true freedom again. And I use this analogy in my book, Travel to Transform. So it's very simple. You can imagine, right, the phone that in your pocket, may that be an iPhone or an Android, right? Essentially, that's actually how our brain and our mind works. Now, hear me out. This very interesting supercomputer, right? The phone that we have, the hardware itself is like our body.
Mm.
So the body is a hard frame containing the software and the hardware inside. Now, this is the reason why, imagine if you have an iPhone 3, let's say, how I'm using iPhone 16 Pro now, I don't know which iPhone you use.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Imagine you are still using an iPhone 3, right? It's just impossible for you to upgrade anything or use any app nowadays.
Mhm.
Because we don't take care of our body. Most people don't, because we work so hard that I grew up in Hong Kong. I grew up in this Asian society where we say health has no economic value, right? And that's the old belief I have. And you read my book, you will realize that is why I share that long, story, which we'll leave for another time, that I have all this chronic fatigue and insomnia because I never take good care of my body, my health and well-being. Now, that's the hardware. And it's interesting because in any smartphone nowadays, right, we also have apps. And the apps are actually our beliefs.
Mhm.
Now, if you group different apps together into a folder, the folder forms your worldview, right? Now, here's the interesting part, because most people living in the ordinary life, they are trying to compete their apps, which means they are trying to say my app is better than your app. So let's say there's an app called Buddhism and Christianity and Islam. The most typical old-limit belief of that, there's conflict. Because if a Christian only install the Christian app, then they will pull the truth from that app and reject any other sets of truth from the other app. Now, what if you put all those apps into the same folder and you call it religion, or call it, let's say, spirituality? And while you can be a Christian, because I also identify myself as a Christian, I can still be a Christian, but I don't have to reject Buddhism teaching. I don't have to reject other people, how they perceive God. And the more I do that, the more I find similarities, right? Now, important distinction is because now understand we're not here to try to fight the worldview. Then the whole point is actually not just about swapping app, which is what most people in the ordinary life are doing, trying to find the next app that's going to fix their life. Because they all forgot the most important fundamental of truth, the most powerful truth inside your iPhone, which is the iOS, the operating system. And if you are using Android, you also have an operating system underlying.
Yeah.
And if it hasn't been updated for 5-10 years, you simply can't use the latest app. Period. So that's why what I'm offering, if you will understand the operating system itself, is actually the level of consciousness of every human being behind. Then the whole point here is actually to recognize there's an upgrade button to upgrade your operating system. And in using it in the practical sense, right? In my life of feeling stuck for so many years, and during that COVID period, when I travel inward, when I decide to click that upgrade button in my operating system, boom, I realized all those bugs in the other apps were finally gone naturally, because it just doesn't serve you anymore. those emotional layers I've shared, right? The low energy and sick version of me, they all got to release. And in fact, I got to install new app that otherwise wouldn't be possible before. And now my world will expand. I got more memories in my iPhone. I start working my body and my health and well-being again. And hence I have new frame to hold that bigger capacity of this new iPhone operating system as well. And that's life. That's life. And if you understand this simple analogy of just this hardware, software, and the operating system, you can't go wrong. Because stop trying to change the app. Stop trying to only change the app. It's important to shift your mindset. It's important to shift your belief system, yes. But first, upgrade your operating system first, because you're going to find so much more possibility and other availability from what you can select now after your conscious awareness has been elevated.
Yeah, I love that analogy. And I think it also makes so much sense because I feel like often people feel like, oh, yeah, maybe it's possible for them. They're talking about this and blah, blah. They moved somewhere else and I don't think it's possible for me. I think that's a thought that often comes up when people are on this growth journey and start to get into this comparison mode. And I feel like this analogy really shows actually how you can really take all those shifts. It doesn't matter what your foundation is or what your starting point is, that it's possible for anyone, that it's literally, going inwards and changing your belief system, what you said, and upgrading the apps, like the operating system. And I think, I love that to really have this vision of, okay, this is everything that's happening inside of me. This is regardless of the outside. And that means that I can make a change, right?
Yeah. It's funny also speak about comparison, right? This morning, right, when I was taking the train to come to your studio from Wollongong, right, it's really beautiful days today in Australia, the blue skies, the nature, and the train ride was amazing. And I was actually writing exactly the same thing, what you just said, because I was actually invited to speak overseas in a couple of other countries. They're happening just now and right now. And most of my friends, they're actually there. They're having the best time of their life, having the most amazing parties. They keep tagging me. It's like, where are you, Freeman? We miss you. And it's so funny because I woke up this morning and I feel like, I'm in Australia. And I feel like I should have been somewhere. But at the same time, no, I know I'm meant to be here. It's a strange feeling, right? Like, in this transition phase, like, I could have been Europe. Like the last 4 years, I was always in Europe for the summer rather than in Australia in winter. But this year, I feel differently. I know this is the right place for me to be. And it's so funny because I was actually secretly, unconsciously comparing myself with others as well. So yeah, like, my best friend, he's speaking, in this event. It's amazing. I want to do that too. I mean, I would have done that. But you know what? Why am I comparing myself with them? And I'm very grateful to see them thrive, see them also upgrading their life. But for me, I'm here. Today, we're having this conversation, and that's my path. That's my travel path. And that's why we can share all these decades of wisdom and knowledge with you so that you don't have to you don't have to make the same mistakes. You don't have to wait for the wake-up call. You don't have to wait for that bus to hit you. And that's something, like it's truly aligned with us, aligned with you. So it's very interesting because this comparison game, especially with social media, and let's speak deeply about that as well, because I'm sure the listener, other than listening to this podcast, if you love travel, you might be on Instagram and TikTok, you follow at least some travel influencers, right? If you don't, follow me and V at least. The more intentional kind of travel creator, I would say. And we always see is like all these creators out there showing you the most amazing drone shots, the most amazing luxury travel, the most amazing exotic destination. And, don't get me wrong, they are all valid experience. But why are we framing ourselves that that's the only type of travel experience I'm chasing, right? And I'm guilty as hell as well. That used to be me when I was as a true state, because that's all I know. And because of that, it's very dangerous that we keep comparing ourselves with others because we hope to replicate the same experience in the same destination, which is a dangerous path because that's so inauthentic. And when we walk an inauthentic path, chances are, even you replicate that experience, you have the same exact photo at the same spot, it won't fulfill you. And only until we listen to that inner voice, you listen to that deeper yearning inside us, that to choose the choice that I know is meant for me, suddenly all the weight goes. And that's why comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is the thief of joy. If you truly want to live a joyful life, stay on your path. There's nothing else we have to compare ourselves with others. The only person we need to compare or want to compare is actually the yesterday version of me. Because you got to ask whether you have become a better version of you, even 1% today. And if you get to compound this effect, right, to become a better version of you, 1% every day, a year's time, you're 37% better than where you are right now. And that's why for us, when we travel for over a decade, when you travel with this transformational experience consciously, boom, of course, it looks like, wow, like their life is completely rocket, different trajectory. But never really underestimate the small step you're taking, the 1% you're taking right now. Because there's always mastery to take this small step. And that compound and led to living the dream life you can. And it never ends. The beauty of life is it never ends. Because the journey is the destination. And I'm sure, you and I, we have done a lot of vision, live visioning, right? You have recently done a live visioning workshop locally in Sydney as well. And, I did that workshop recently also in Da Nang in Vietnam, and also last year in a couple of different locations I serve. And wow, it's funny that because every time when we do this live visioning exercise, you realize most of the things that I want already happened, already come true, already manifested into reality. And that's why you keep going. It's like, wow, like what is the next level of life I got to unleash as well? When we stay true to our authentic path, rather than trying to copy others and put other people's image onto our own vision board. And that's an internal process. There's nothing external. Now, don't get me wrong. You can get inspired by others' people's journey.
Yeah.
But never copy or try to replicate it onto your own journey. That's the distinction.
Yeah. And it takes so much pressure away when you're able to do that. And also what you said about the visioning, that you really think about, am I putting an image of someone else's life on my vision or my vision board, or is it actually something I truly want? I think that's something I always ask myself as well when I maybe get inspired by someone and I'm like, oh, I want that too. And then actually that's the first reaction, and then afterwards I'm like, actually, do I really want that? And then sometimes you realize like, no, I love that for that person and it's super cool, but actually it's not part of my journey, right?
Beautifully said. And it's so important, especially the listener, if you listen to this point, right? I'm sure there's something start feeling differently in you. And it's very important because you will spend time and energy and effort to go through this content, and hope you're absorbing all this wisdom as much as you can. And I would love to see you out in the world as well. So drop us a message, if what have really shift inside you. But at the same time, right, when you finish listening and you go to social media app, when you are scrolling again, like we all do, right? Because scrolling is not the devil. Mindless scrolling is the devil, right? And when we start scrolling, it's so easy to lose track again. Because no matter what level we have reached, there's always some people living another version of life that I feel like I want to, and you feel like, I want that. But remember, all the things you want and you can dream of is already inside you. There's nothing else we need to copy. Again, you can feel inspired. And I think that's very important, to have the right community, to have like-minded people like you and I. We are overlapping in many beautiful personal growth and travel communities. It's important to be in those spaces, feeling inspired, having accountability, having people supporting you, that not judging your vision, right? No matter how big your dreams are. If people don't judge you and they support you unconditionally, wow, those are the right people. And great. You can really draw inspiration from them. But at the same time, don't let that to become the template, right? Don't let that to become the template of how you live your life. I experienced that when, before I quit my job, I recognized the template because I realized, I have crafted a different travel life. Yes, I was living life as an expat. I was moving around different countries. But yeah, I was still in the same template of chasing and hardworking. and focusing on the doing, but not the being. And I realized I was still in a template. But at the same time, if we allow ourselves to really strip back from comparing ourselves and then realizing those powers already stay true inside me, and we allow ourselves to spend time with ourselves in silence, right? Just in a nature walk, without the noise, right? Without any other people keep talking around you and tell you what to do and push their expectation onto you, you start realizing there's so much more answers and insights and space available that we don't need. And other influencers on Instagram tell you where you need to go, how to enjoy Japan or Paris in 5 days, download our PDF guide, or you meet all these coaches bombarding you with ads like live a different life, location independent, do this 30 days, you're going to be rich, make $1 million in 3 months or whatever hook they give you. And I speak for that because it really makes me so mentally tired every time, and I recognize I'm more like a distinction between a content consumer or content creator. Because as traveler, I'm sure, again, many of you listening, if you travel, most of the time you might be a creator as well, a content creator, because you want to live those memories, to capture those memories, right? Whether you share it publicly or not, you are a creator in a sense. But many of the time we kind of slip into the other identity of being a content consumer, because all these technology platforms, they are built to capture our attention. They are there to capture our eyeballs and monetize from the time we spend on it. And that's why it's so powerful. And again, building this conscious awareness to build that gap in between is the true power. So yeah, I really appreciate you also bring that point up as well, because comparison, even for listener, if you're listening to this, you're trying to compare our journey, me and V journey with you, that's gonna only give you pressure. So that's why we want to empower you to really remember you have your own path, you have your own pace, you have the way that to build your global citizen life in a way that you truly want. No one is here to stop you. Nothing on the external can stop you. All the power and tools and insight you need are already inside you.
Yeah, beautiful. I think that's also one of the reasons why I started this podcast in the first place, not just to share my own journey and insights, but also to invite people like you and other people who have shared about their journey to show the audience like what's possible. And what you said, it's not to copy and paste and be like, oh, now I want this too, but to just think outside of the box and feel like, oh wow, never heard about this way of life. That's cool. Let me explore if that's something that I would like, or create your own version, or what you said, just to feel inspired and to expand your horizons, and then create your own version of all those different ingredients that you find, make your own recipe out of it. So yeah, I think that's really beautiful, and it's a great reminder as well, because when we get into this rabbit hole of scrolling on social media, it's so easy to feel like, oh, they have their life together, or they're in this beautiful place. But to really take a step back and find that moment of stillness, and to realize, what is it actually that I want for myself, and do that from that place of being, not doing. That's where you eventually find the answers, and then the rest is inspiration and support as well. But it's not get rich in 30 days, or like all those things, that those shiny objects that you're like, oh, I want this too. But to just take a step back from all the noise and to really tune inwards, and that's where the answers are. And then you can get the inspiration, you can get the support and the accountability, but then it comes from a place of your own foundation, right? And then that can add something to your life as a bonus, but it's not like you're trying to find the answers like externally.
Exactly. And it's interesting you say that, because it's about the alignment of your inner self, right? And let's bring martial arts on the table as well, because we were talking about this earlier in our casual chat. And recently I picked up learning Wing Chun, right? And for those who don't know, Wing Chun is like from Ip Man. If you have watched movie from Donnie, or as simple as Bruce Lee learned Wing Chun, right, before he developed Jeet Kune Do. And it's very funny because I practiced Shaolin martial art in the last couple of years. And I started recently learning about Wing Chun. And the philosophy behind is actually something so adaptive. It's essentially a summary of what we just said about this inner alignment. Because in both Wing Chun and Shaolin, right, they have a philosophy that we don't use the brutal force to try to hit the opponents, right? It's not like Western kickboxing, that or taekwondo, where there's like really strong fierce force. But instead, right, in Wing Chun and Shaolin martial art, it's actually about how can redirect that force to another direction so that the opponent fall themselves without me feeling the pain inside or trying to brutally force something. And I think that's really brilliant. And also what Bruce Lee really teach about be water, and there are many dimensions about that two words, be water. Because it's not just about the martial arts or how you fight. It's also life, how you're navigating through this crazy force of societies and the matrix that has been kind of forcing upon us. And to utilize that understanding, if I were to use minimal economic of efforts, right, and understand we can actually be harmony when we are working in flow rather than brutal force hitting each other, and then we have bruises, and then we feel the pain. We can actually be fluid, right? And if you apply that to your own travel life and also building an extraordinary life, it comes even easier because, again, most people, they're trying to work hard, right? One-way street. Again, we both were guilty. So we're not pointing fingers. Yeah. We're speaking from our own pains and hope you don't need to wait for that bus. And working hard, that one-way street is a brutal force, right? Try to cut through. It's like, I have to achieve this result. It works to a certain extent because you're going to hit a bottleneck, the 2x we talked about earlier. But if you allow yourself to be fluid, to allow, there's like a bigger guidance to let you go through. Sometimes there might be a shortcut. Sometimes there may be the right people at the right time, at the right place, speaking, giving you the right idea, right? May that be for your business, for your friendship, for your partnerships. We call it, you can call it synchronicity, you can call it serendipity, you can call it coincidence or luck, however you want to call it. But this bigger guidance, if you allow yourself to bring this martial art philosophy to work with the harmony of life itself, now everything becomes much easier. Because most of the time, you can literally look at your own to-do list, right? And actually, I stopped calling my to-do list. It's just my happiness and my creative list.
Love that, yeah.
And if you look at your to-do list now, how many of those items actually makes you feel, I need to do this, I have to, right? That feeling is exactly what the brutal force is. It's like a punch coming in and you try to take it with another punch. But what if the punch comes in and you just redirect it somewhere and it doesn't hit you? What if you can look at your to-do list, if that is the action you can take right now? Look at your to-do list. What are the items? You can actually redirect or approach it differently with more fun. How can you make it more joyful? How can you be creative? Even work. You get to ask yourself, how can I have more fun? Even I'm writing the most boring email. And now you get to play the game differently.
Yeah, that's beautiful. How can we have more fun? I think that's a good thing to remember for everyone, right? With everything you do. And yeah, I feel like we can talk for hours and hours, which we do anyways. But is there anything at this moment that I haven't asked you yet that you feel like, oh, this is something I would still like to share, or something that's still on your mind before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I feel like we have really beautiful, comprehensive chat as well. It's like distilling a lot of tools, mindset, philosophy, the integration of the outer and inner journey together. So yeah, I think we have covered a lot. But if I may leave some last few words here, right, to the audience, is that you deserve freedom. You deserve freedom. I truly believe that we born in the best time in the world right now with technology and AI and all these amazing practical tools that help us to build life easier. Because just a couple of decades ago, we would likely be born in a piece of land, staying in the same piece of town, right? Having the same group of people surrounding us and live life that way the rest of your life. But now we're born in a very exciting technological age. And I believe when we consciously utilize all this opportunity from an inside out, you unleash freedom in the most authentic way. And you deserve living in a life of freedom, a life of extraordinary.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. How can someone, if if the listeners feel like, oh, I want to read the book or connect with you online, what's the best place to find you?
Yeah, I would love to stay connect with all the audience as well, and feel free to send me and V a note as well. What you have learned from spending this amazing time and energy in this episode together. I really, really value that because I know time is the most valuable currency. So I really acknowledge you for showing up to the end. For my book, Travel to Transform, is available pretty much on Amazon and globally distributed. And if you would love to stay connected, my Instagram handle is freemanfung.global. I'm sure it will be the footnote.
I'll put it in the show notes, so don't worry about it. Yeah.
And for those who would love to take a deeper step as well, I do have a free 2-hour masterclass. If you enjoy this conversation and you want to go into the practical tools to build your own blueprint, I have that as well. And also, I offer your audience, the Beyonders. There's a code in the footnote, in the show notes as well. If you want to go into your travel mastery, this word I use a lot in our conversation, this mastery process. I have a signature program as well, and I'm offering a huge discount to your audience. And if you loved it, I'll see you in my community too.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And also thank you for sharing this discount with my community. Then definitely check it out. I put all the links in the show notes below this episode, so you can go in there. And also, yeah, let us know what you thought of this episode. Maybe you took some notes or you want to re-listen again, because there were so many insights and it was a wonderful conversation. So thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe so that you stay up to date on future episodes. And it will also help me to grow the audience further and spread the message of transformational travel and living your life full of freedom and all of these beautiful topics that we spoke about today. So thank you again. And thank you too.
Thanks, V.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
See you in the next one.